you buy another lottery ticket and you win. Now, suppose this keeps happening. Suppose he keeps sending you in to buy a lottery ticket, and if you win, he lets you live. If you don't, he's going to kill you, but you keep winning. Wouldn't there come a point, eventually, where you have to say, this lottery's fixed? This can't keep happening by chance. I can't keep winning the lottery over and over and over again just by luck. Someone has to be behind this. God or some person is setting up the numbers so that I constantly win. But you would conclude that someone's behind this. And this is similar to what we're saying here. Namely, we've already won the lottery a ton of times. For us to be here right now, we've won the lottery over and over and over and over and over, because the values and the constants of physics could have had a wide range of values, and yet they always turn up to have the values that are necessary for us to be here. And what I think this shows is that someone's rigged the universe. It looks like someone has planned out the universe, that someone, whoever made the universe, had us in mind. And that's the only way we can be here, because some being had us in mind. And so if we're talking about how can we know not just that the universe was caused, but how can we know the attributes of that cause? We've already seen several of them, timeless and so on. But I think what we could gather from this argument is that the cause of the universe is intelligent, and that the cause of the universe is motivated by a concern for us. We are of importance to the creator of this universe. Would you agree with that, Dr. Craig?
Yes, I think that's right. And it cannot be exaggerated, the kind of intelligence that would be required to fine-tune all of the constants and quantities of nature to this incomprehensible precision in order for the universe to be life-permitting. So we're talking about a very, very powerful, if not omniscient, designer of the cosmos.
Mm-hmm. Now, it seems we're missing one very, very important attribute of God. I think you could say that based on the fine-tuning argument, if the designer of the universe is motivated by some sort of concern for us, or we are of importance, you could start getting to the attribute of goodness. But it wouldn't be enough to say in other words, what we think of in our concept of God, a being who is the ultimate standard of goodness, or completely good. So that would be the purpose of the next argument, to sort of fill in that gap, wouldn't it?
That's right. I think that what David has expressed clearly here is that these arguments complement one another by building a kind of cumulative case for theism. And some of the arguments will give you certain properties of God, and other arguments will give you different properties. None of the arguments so far gives us the moral properties of this being, and that's why it's important to look at the so-called moral argument for the existence of God, which is, again, one of the classic arguments for God's existence. And there are many versions of this, but one goes basically like this. It says that if God does not exist, then objective moral values and duties do not exist. That is to say, if atheism is true, then sociocultural relativism is true. Moral values are just the byproducts of biological and social evolution, and they vary from culture to culture and even person to person. But there aren't any objective moral values or duties that we have if God does not exist. But the second premise would be that there are objective moral values and duties. In moral experience, we apprehend a realm of objective moral values, and we sense moral duties that are laid upon us. We recognize, for example, that it's better to love another person than to hate him, that torturing children for fun is wrong, that child abuse is morally wrong. But if that's true, if you agree that there are objective moral values and duties, then it follows logically and necessarily that therefore God exists.
Well, thank you, Doctor. You know, we happen to have a caller on the line. His name is David, actually, and we're going to go ahead and go to that call right now. David, can you hear us?
Hello, Dr. David Wood and Dr. Craig. How are you guys doing?
Hey, is this the Fat Man?
That's the Fat Man.
Hey, how's it going, bro?
It's good. I had a great time this weekend. I'm going through withdrawals. But I have a question for Dr. Craig. I wonder, have you ever read any of Dr. Hugh Ross's books? Would you recommend that?
Yes. Yeah, in fact, Hugh and I have participated in outreach events together, not only in this country, but also in the former Soviet Union.
Really? Okay. Well, that's a good endorsement then. I'll invest in money then. Thank you very much, guys, and you guys have a good day.
All right. Thanks, David.
Thanks, David.
Bye.
Now, Dr. Craig, going back to this, to the moral argument, if I were an atheist, I wouldn't. I don't think I would see the plausibility of this argument instantly. And yet, when you really stick with the when you examine the alternatives to these premises, in other words, if you want to say that these first two premises are false, you really got some problems here. If you want to say there are no, so if you want to reject the second premise that there are moral values, there are objective moral values. If anyone missed it, objective moral values. These are things that are true, the right or wrong, and it doesn't matter what you think of them. In other words, if every person on the planet decided tomorrow that it's okay to torture old ladies for fun, it would still be wrong, even if we all think otherwise. So it's the claim to say that there are objective moral values is just to say that there are things that are really right or wrong, and it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter if you change your mind and you say, no, it's okay for me to go rape a child or something like that. It wouldn't matter if you say that or if you believe it. It would still be wrong no matter what. So the only way an atheist could really object to the claim that there are objective moral values would be to say there are no objective moral values, and that just, it seems to me that would be absurd to an extreme. And I mean, you would actually have to say it would be okay for me if an atheist says this. I could just walk up to the atheist and bash the atheist's head in, and he wouldn't be able to say anything about it. He could not say that it's wrong. Or if I were to torture a baby in front of this atheist, he could not say it's wrong. All he could say is, well, I have a different taste preference from you, and so I don't like that, but I can't actually say that it's wrong. So it would seem to almost make you not human in order to reject the idea that there are objective moral values. So, and I don't see how an atheist can reasonably or plausibly reject that. But as far as premise one is concerned, if God does not exist, objective moral values do not exist. If an atheist wants to reject that, it seems he would have to say, no, there is some source of objective morality apart from God. God does not have to be the ultimate source of objective moral values. There can be some other source of absolute right and wrong that transcends humanity. And I just have no clue how there could be anything that transcends humanity and governs all right and wrong that would not be God. In other words, it's God or it's just us. If it's just us, it's not objective. And yet it has to be objective, therefore it has to be more than us, therefore it has to be God. So I don't think many atheists really understand the force of this simple argument.
Well, I think probably you're right. Richard Dawkins is such a great illustration. If you read his book, The God Delusion, you find he actually agrees with both of these premises, but doesn't see the conclusion that follows from them. On the one hand, he says that on atheism, there is no good, there is no evil, there's nothing but pitiless indifference. On the other hand, his book is full of moral judgments. He condemns religious intolerance and homophobia. He condemns the Amish for their education of their children. He condemns Catholic parents raising their children to believe in Roman Catholicism. He even gives his own revised 10 Commandments in the book for how moral conduct ought to be carried out. So on the one hand, he denies that there's any objective moral values. On the other hand, he is committed to them over and over and over again, and he just doesn't see the contradiction then of being an atheist.
So would you say that an atheist just cannot hold this consistently? They'd want to maintain that there are no objective moral values in order to avoid the conclusion of this argument, but that would result in an unlivable philosophy.
It is unlivable. That's very true. I mean, there's been no atheist that has been able to live life as though there is no objective moral value. You would have to treat other persons as worthless, as absolutely valueless, and you would have to regard yourself as valueless, and that other persons can treat you as worthless in whatever way they want. And it's simply impossible to live that way. I think we have an intrinsic apprehension of the moral value of other persons and of our own self-worth.
Well, Doctor, we're in the home stretch of our program here, roughly about 7 minutes left. We have one caller. We'd like to get him on. His name is Joel. And Joel, would you make a comment or a question? And we'd like to get a response quickly here. Thank you for calling.
Yes, hello, this is Joe, and I have a question for your eminent guest there.
Okay.
Yes, I was wondering, I've been following the creation-evolution debate, and I was wondering what guests, how they feel, how important is this, how strategic is this? I know it's a parallel issue to the idea of God existing or not, but as far as in the public square, the best place to fight this for us as Christians, would this be a good outlet for that? I mean, the philosophical debates that have been mentioned, and I wonder if it's not more captivating to the average person to talk about origins or creation and evolution. I just would like to hear some comments on that as far as trying to get average American people to consider not just the existence of God, which most people concede, but the ramifications thereof, and ultimately, of course, on their own souls.
Thank you, Joe. We have a few minutes. Doctor, could you comment, please?
This is a very interesting question, and I would want to make a distinction here between the philosophical importance of this issue and its social importance. Philosophically, I don't think this is a very important issue. I do not think that evolution disproves the existence of God. I think you've already got God from the fine-tuning of the universe, and therefore if he wanted to use evolution as a means for creating human beings on this planet, that's perfectly within his prerogative. So philosophically, I just don't think this is important at all. However, as the caller rightly saw, it is socially very important because this is an issue that people are vitally concerned about. They're more interested in it than they are, say, in cosmology. And many people are under the impression that if the Darwinian theory of evolution is true, that therefore theism is somehow disproved. And so I do think it's pretty vital that Christian scientists and philosophers address this issue and show that the theory of evolution simply doesn't have the sort of anti-theistic implications that people like Dawkins and others claim that it does. And moreover, I think it's worthwhile calling into question some of the hypotheses in the theory that are not well established scientifically, that even their proponents admit are still open questions.
Well, Doctor, we thank you. Why don't you give us the opportunity? We mentioned your book earlier, which is called On Guard, and is that available now?
Oh yes, it's available, and the best place to get it would be at our website, which is reasonablefaith.org. At reasonablefaith.org, we have an online bookstore, and that is where you can buy these materials at the most steeply discounted prices. You just click on the button that says store, and it will take you to our online store, and you can get it there. There's also a study guide that accompanies the book that's available at a discount price.
You know, I was on the website earlier today, and for those that are watching, make sure you make note of that, reasonablefaith.org. Did I say that correctly, Doctor?
Yes.
Okay, great. Reasonablefaith.org. Please visit that website. Check out the resources. I actually listened to a podcast earlier today.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a great website. I wish I had more time. I plan to go back to it, really. And just meeting you tonight via Skype and listening to you speak and then hearing this discussion, you've added to my bailiwick of resources out there. So we're glad to meet you this way electronically, and we are grateful for ABN Ministries for